Alright, so we are back and still don't currently have somebody here that I'm going to armbar, but I'm going to go ahead and go through the 5 principles of good armbar with you guys. And so one thing I'm gonna start off with is I want you guys to see something here, right? So in armbar, I'm going to get back to that in 1 second. I've gotten ahead of myself. So what I want to do when I'm doing any type of armbar, what I want to do is I want to control the top of the lever, the middle of the lever, and the bottom of the lever, right? So basically wrist or hand, the part that I'm breaking, and then the bottom of the lever. And so when I'm trying to control the bottom of the lever, I need hip penetration. So I need my hips to be as far under that shoulder as I can possibly get. If there's space, let's say my hips are here, it's going to be it's not a very far distance for him to be able to get his elbow out to the floor, and then my armbar is completely gone. So when I am doing an armbar, like my favorite armbars to go for are it's like that side mount armbar, an S mount armbar to an extent. They're the far side armbar from Knee Ride. There's a lot of those ones that I'm going to be able to get them to this position before I ever start to actually settle down into the armbar. And why I like this position is that look at all this space here, right? If they're out here, they're like trying to defend this armbar, my hips can get right under there, and then when they land, they're going to be here. So you see that all that space there, my shoulders way off the ground, and their hips are way underneath that shoulder. This is really amazing control if you can get it. One way that I like to get that control, a lot of times, because people are going to be kind of here already trying to protect that arm, is that I'm going to grab the wrist of that arm and I'm going to feed under their arm, and I'm getting into this figure 4 lock, and then I can just curl my wrists and turn. And so if somebody's flat and I'm turning them like that, I'm going to start getting their shoulders off the ground. So that's another little thing, is that, if you don't have that hip penetration, I need to, instead of trying to pull him on top of me, I need to push him away and then scooch in, right? Because that's going to move my hips underneath them. A lot of times when we are trying to get into the better position and we want to move our partners, what we're actually doing is we're moving ourselves. And that's a really important thing to kind of understand from the very beginning. So hip penetration is going to be one of the first things that I'm going to be looking for before I get that. So I'm controlling his body. He can't get his arm back at this moment, right? He's mostly defending. He doesn't want to get it extended out. And so I'm going to start working about hip penetration. So when I am trying to set up this armbar, the first thing I'm going to do, once I get into position, is I'm going to put my little booties on, right? So I've got that 90-degree flex here. I'm going to take my heels and draw them in under that far side armpit, right? Notice my feet are not crossed, okay? And this is what I was going into a second ago. And so I'll come into this position. So you see, if I go into this PB dance position where my heels are further out than my knees come together, right? That's internally rotating my hips. If I cross my ankles, this is the position I go into. I can still close, right? I can still get into this position where I can control the arm. I just don't find it nearly as strong. But sometimes if he's really feisty, he's really fighting it, sometimes I just need to weather the storm and I'll cross my ankles to do that. That's not technically wrong, but it doesn't have the advantage that I think a lot of people think it does. So when you set up this armbar, I'm going to dig my heels in, right? So heels in, right? I'm going to pinch my knees together. At this point, I've already got hip penetration. That was the first thing I'm going for. Then I'm going for this control. Now, when I pinch my knees together, what I'm really doing is I'm biting down onto his bicep and tricep here, onto his humerus, right? I'm trying to lock that in so that he can't pull it back, right? Because the way that he's going to start to defend it, right, the first thing is he's going to try to pull his arm back in. And so it's probably going to look like this, right? I'm trying to rotate in, but if I've got this locked with my thighs and they're pinched really tight here, he's not getting that arm back. So once I got the heels drawn in, I've already got that hip penetration, I've got my knees together, I'm going to control the top of the lever. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to move my hand up to his hand, not his wrist. If you try to like hold onto a wrist and rotate it, you can see how much movement is going there. I want him to be basically, I don't want to say it this way because it's not going to be a true fact, but I'm going to go ahead and give it to you just as a point of reference for right now, is that I want his thumb pointed up to the sky. That's actually not true, but so I'm going to basically put my thumb, it's going to be from the other side, but I'm going to put my thumb into his palm here, and I'm controlling the hand so that I know where that wrist is going. Now, when I come back, I'm going to glue to the chest, and I'm going to just slowly dive back. Now, this is where I usually get my arm bars, that far down. If you fall back and you've got a really good arm bar, and you fall back and boom, you're going to break his arm well before you drop. And so we want to be really careful about that. Now, I thought about something really important there. I apologize. I'll continue on and we'll come back. Oh no, that's what I wanted to say. For your first arm bars, when you're trying to, and you've got a willing partner who's letting you practice, I actually forego any sort of hand grip here, right? I'm focusing on everything else, and I'm gonna let them point their thumb up to the ceiling. And I want you to bring, you're gonna draw your hips up, and so I'm lifting my hips slightly, and I'm just lightly with my fingertips finishing that arm bar. I won't be able to go as deep with it, and I don't want to, right? There's a very small difference between this and broken, right? So he's probably already here. You just need to continue going on. So I'm going to use my fingertips lightly, and the reason why I say to do this is because what people tend to do is that they tend to grab onto the arm and pull it up, and basically they're like trying to give that person a nice stretch, and they're like trying to elongate the guy's shoulder. Because people are trying to jerk up so much, they're not actually getting that downward force. So you should be able, and this is also for learning how not to break your opponent's arm, is use those fingertips and have your partner do it to you. Right? You'll find that fingertip finish is enough. It doesn't take any force to finish an armbar. So once you kind of understand, oh, this is how my force is supposed to go, then you can move on. So one thing that my coach says, and I'm going to share it with you guys, the way that people are going to defend an armbar from this position, right? One of them is that they're going to sit up, right? And they're going to start picking up your hip. And so the way I'm going to fix that is I lift this hip up, right? If their head's here and they're trying to sit up, if I just glue this hip into the ground by lifting this hip up a little bit, they're not going to be able to do that. Now this hip is raised, and basically I like to squeeze my knees together so tight that his hand is anatomy. See that we kind of go narrow to wide here before we come down to the crotch? Right? So I'm going to take advantage of that. If I'm pinching my knees together, my adductors and all that are tight, his elbow is not going to come anywhere near, his humerus is not coming anywhere near my balls, right? So this whole section right here, this is a kind of a soft surface. So what my coach likes to do is instead of pointing up the thumb to the ceiling, he points it a little bit that way, right? So my hip's up, his thumb's pointed that way, and then he lifts up on this hip as he brings that arm down. And don't get me wrong, that's insanely powerful. Insanely powerful. Be very careful. But basically, what I want you to get to, and this should be your goal, right? Don't worry about the finish. Worry about establishing the position and controlling it. If he can't get his arm back, you've got all the time in the world to finish this. Seriously, you do. So take your time. I get that dig in. This is going to kind of help glue him to the mat more, so he's not going to be able to turn as easily. I'm pinching my knees together so that he can't pull the arm back. I've got the hip penetration, his shoulder's off the ground. If I've got that arm extended or whatever, and somebody's trying to arm bar me, I'm going to try to get my shoulders away from him and down, right? If my opponent's hips, are underneath. Maybe this won't work. I have to clear that first before I can get my elbow down to the mat. So getting that hip penetration, get that pinch and that drive in, that's going to do everything to stop him from being able to escape. Now, his only defense is maybe to start grabbing here or start going for hitchhiker defense, which we'll talk about way down the road. You don't need to know it for right now. So I pinch in, I got my heels drawn in, my boots on, I keeping that pinch there. I've got at the top of the lever, so I'm controlling the bottom of the lever with my hips and with my pinch here. This pinch is stopping me from losing that hip penetration, right? And then top of the lever, very lightly finish by drawing down, not up. And the thing about this is that you don't have to be on the ground, right? So if I'm playing the guard, right, I can shoot my hips over underneath that arm, throw my leg over his face, and I can finish it right there from the guard. If he starts to stack me, if I keep this kind of 90-degree bend in my body in both parts, I've got this structure nice and strong, and he starts to, so I'm going to be in this position from the guard, right, because I'm on my side now, my hips are under his armpits. If he starts to stack and whatnot, if I get here, right, I maintain that structure. Not only is it going to be harder for him to pick me up like that, but I can still finish that armbar. Nothing has changed, right? So it doesn't matter where you're at in order to chase that particular armbar. You just have to maintain that type of structure, which is going to be built with that draw in, that pinch, and maintaining this 90-degree bend. You can totally finish from here. So there's my 5 principles, or my coach's 5 principles of an armbar. Hip penetrations, heels drawn in, knees together, top of the lever, and lift the hips up, right? So, and I didn't really emphasize much of that top of the hips except for when I was rolling the hip up. If I am in this position and I'm going straight up, it's still going to be like a little bridge here. For me, I don't necessarily find in that position it's as necessary because I've got that tight squeeze and I'm not bringing his elbow all the way down to my crotch. So there we have it. We're going to cover this more detail when I have a partner. I say that a lot. Hopefully Jet or Robert or somebody's going to come in and step up here in a moment. So there we are. That's kind of our beginnings, and let's go ahead and we're going to go into scissor choke finishes.